Howdy everybody, I'm Matt.
And I'm Brian.
And today we've got a new 10 at 10 for you. Today's 10 at 10 is for July 5th of 2022. We hope you're excited. We've got some amazing plants lined up for you today. And we want to thank everybody stopping and tuning into these premieres. We love doing these premieres for you. And we think we've got a really cool lineup for you as well.
Well, I mean, you know, every Tuesday I think, how are we going to top the last Tuesday, right? And then we set up this table and I'm thinking, you guys need to be ready for this because we got some amazing cultivars on this table today and you're going to be really excited at what we have coming.
So we'll just get right into it. I've got some home run hitters here today, I feel like, for sure. First up on the table, we have ACER PALMATUM RIKUZEN SHIDARE. Now, RIKUZEN is a rare kind of exclusive plant here at MrMaple. It's actually one we got here first from Japan. This was at a temple in Japan pre-tsunami. A friend of mine actually grafted it. He wasn't supposed to, but he did. And he grafted this tree. And then after the tsunami, the original tree got washed away. And he returned them a giant plant and said, hey, this is why you should share. So he brought them back a nice specimen of this. What makes this one so cool is it's very different than your typical weeping form. It's almost its own thing. Like, you can almost say, I was telling somebody earlier, like the, Golden Falls, Dragon Master. You can see how they're more in RIKUZEN and even Nakakomoto Weepin's lineage. This one has branching and foliage a little more like what you think of with Hogyoku or Osakazuki. Intense yellow fall color as well.
I mean, the yellow fall color on this is absolutely amazing. You know, when you think of those weeping types, you're usually thinking more in that red vein or orange to red in the fall, but with this bright yellow, it really gives you something extra special with a broad leaf, so you get even more of that palette of yellow there. It's just really striking. It's
a little slower growing than RIKUZEN and a little different. I mean, it's definitely more branched like an Amoenum, like those Hogyokus or Osakazuki.
Definitely.
Intensely yellow. The first time I saw this one in Japan, I mean, my heart started racing. There was one there in like a 20-gallon container, and I could tell right away it was special. And I'm like, what's this all about? And I think it was the second trip before I really got introduced to what it was all about.
Right.
But man, awesome plant.
Awesome plant, for sure.
Handy this one over here.
So next up, we've got ACER PALMATUM SHIN HIKASA.
Awesome plant. Think of this one almost as your dwarf Higasayama. So HIKASA, Hikasayama, Higasayama, very similar phrasing in that Romanji when you originally see it. Shin meaning improved. So this is a dwarf form of Higasayama. This one's going to leaf out in the early spring with that neon pinks on reds, like everything you love about Higasayama.
Well,
but in a small, dense dwarf. Almost like Higasayama times MIKAWA Etsubusa, in a way.
Yeah, I grew the Higasayama in my garden, so just imagining that in a dwarf compact shape, I think that's going to be a really strong presence in the garden for sure.
Much, much more compact than Higasayama. Higasayama tends to grow over a foot of growth a year for me. This one, I mean, maybe 4 to 5 feet even in 10 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Very small growth. We get a little bit more growth on them here in the nursery setting, but I mean, it's a compact, very tight internoting plant as well. Great red fall color as well. Excellent tree for that container garden or in the small planter garden. If you want to put this one out in a rock garden, it's going to look awesome. If you do have some late day shade, you're going to hold those colors later into the season. In the greenhouse setting, we do tend to green up any of the Higasayama types quicker than they will in the ground, but they don't revert.
Right, yeah, exactly. So if you see it kind of in that green realm, don't worry, it's not been reverting. It's just, you'll probably get better color that next following year as spring leaves out, so.
Awesome plant. They're really good dwarf, excellent for that container garden. Now next up we have one, I'm surprised we have any left of this one. Brian about sold this one out at open house. I think you were in that greenhouse. He was wheeling, dealing right and left.
I was peddling these Sweet Lorraines.
He was telling everybody, he's like, you can't miss out on Sweet Lorraine.
I mean, it doesn't get much better than this plant right here. I mean, you've got a reticulated veining inside of a lace leaf, and the colors on it are just this constant change. From leafing out. I've been just watching this as it leaves out in the greenhouse. It just gets me all excited. I've been taking some killer photos on that. But yeah, this is one I had to add into my collection.
They're a little greener this time of the year here in the greenhouses as well. But this one leaves out like some pink pastels, even some purple shades. It is a true reticulated lace leaf. So it has that, almost what you like about the Ghost series. It has that reticulated veining to every single leaf. Exactly what you like about the Ghost series, but in a lace leaf format. So This is going to be a low cascading umbrella, more of like a 3 to 4 foot tall by about 4 foot wide, kind of a low, slower growing lace leaf. Think of this one as the perfect pairing to filigree. Filigree has a little bit of that flake in it as well, and this one's kind of the pink version of filigree.
Right, and what's really nice about this is once it does start to green up a little bit, you start getting that new summer flush, and it's like a hot pink. It's crazy. I've got one potted on my porch right now, and the whole top half of it is just like a hot pink color. It's amazing.
I actually wonder if Tim and I didn't introduce this plant by accident one time at Talon's. We were at Talon's one time. This is another Talon Buchholz introduction, and he had an area where he had just things he was calling shooting star, what does he call it, shining stars, and they're just like the top of the class, right? He just has some seedlings he's going through. He picks out the ones he wants to name, like Waveleaf was from that. And I think this was there in that program. I could be wrong, but there was something just like this. And Tim and I were like, hey, we'd like to get this one specifically. And he was like, wait, that one's going to get named. It's going back in this pile. So we may or may not have contributed to this one getting out there, as we were like, that's awesome. And it certainly had a lot of these characteristics to it.
I mean, there's really nothing else quite like it out there. I mean, it's
phenomenal.
It's in a league of its own for
until Earthmound.
Until
coming soon.
Mound. Can't wait to show you that one. It's amazing. All right, so next up here, we've got ACER PALMATUM ORIDONO NISHIKI. This is a great variegated. I grew one of these back in Oklahoma. Fairly heat tolerant for me as well there in Oklahoma. Great plant, very strong, upright, variegated.
Classic variegated plant. Definitely defines a whole genre of that kind of pink on white swirling. We'll often describe that as an ORIDONO NISHIKI style variegation.
Yeah, kind of sets the tone for that whole category,
It's your classic pink on white, upright, fairly fast growing, typically over a foot of growth a year. Now these actually don't revert, so if you have a really old one, you can do a light pruning in in mid to late March, and that new growth flush will almost candy cane. You'll get pink swirls all in it. I had a challenge one time. A friend of mine, Richard Bomar, who you know, he's visited us a few times, he had like probably a 20-foot-old tree that had gotten so covered up by sweet gums in a garden that it had been completely in shade and forgotten about for a long time. And he's like, I don't think it has any variegation to it. Well, he said, dig it up and take it. So this was in my younger nursery days. I dug it up, took the challenge. I took it back to my house and did a hard pruning on it. I mean, he came up the next spring and he was like, what on earth? Because, I mean, it was the quintessential colors for ORIDONO NISHIKI that year. And so light pruning can go a long way for variegation. But one that doesn't revert, classic pink and white and green. In the fall, it's pretty nice because where the white is, you almost get more of a soft red with a dark red on the green. So really cool color patterns there too.
Absolutely.
Now this one's a very unique one. We'll have to describe this one for you very well. This was a sampling of MIKAWA Yatsubusa seedlings that we decided to graft just to hold on to those traits. So there was a wide range of MIKAWA Yatsubusa seedlings. All were holding that dense MIKAWA Yatsubusa trait with a ton of variability. So these are grafted, but they will have variability in spring color. They're all going to have the MIKAWA Yatsubusa shape to them, but they're going to have a great deal of variance as far as some are going to be more of a mauve, some are going to be more green, some are going to be more pink. We picked out some of our favorites for red to hold the deep, deep red, but there's going to be a good deal of variance to these for sure. Yeah,
and when you're ordering these online, make sure you pay attention to the way it's described, because we do have a MIKAWA seedling that is not grafted. These are MIKAWA seedlings that are grafted, so if you're looking for something that's not grafted, this is not it. But this right here is going to be an amazing cultivar.
If you're a fan of the MIKAWA family and the MIKAWA series, it's going to give you everything MIKAWA Yatsubusa does, but a little bit more surprises, right?
Right, absolutely.
It's going to do something a little different for you this spring.
I mean, I think, you know, the MIKAWA is something that we're always looking for the next best MIKAWA that comes out. And I think it's always cool to have something that's just a little bit different that, you know, in the spring, especially when it comes out, you're like, wow, what's this? You know, so you can add one of these to your garden right here.
Excellent heat tolerance. These are going to be just like MIKAWA for the sun. They're able to do a good bit. These are great for the patio or in the ground. But just, everything you like about MIKAWA Yatsubusa with maybe a little something extra in that spring, a little extra spring surprise for you.
Absolutely. So next up, we've got ACER PALMATUM SHIDARE. This is an introduction by Crispin Silva.
Yeah.
And he always has amazing plants. So every time I know this is one of his, I'm like, this is something you should pay attention to. Absolutely.
Awesome plant. I believe Damon's one of his sons, and he named Sir Damon after his son there. Awesome plant. one of the very brightest in the winter garden. That's what this one was selected for. Crispin has a great eye for selection, and it's basically one of the brightest forms of our coral bark. So that bark is intensely bold, bold, bold red. I mean, it really looks a little bit more bright and a little bit more picked up in that winter garden especially. Good grower. This one's very heat tolerant for us. We do recommend this one zone 6 through 9. Excellent plant though. Some hot afternoon, you want to give it protection from that hot afternoon sun in zone 9, so at 3 p.m. on sun you want to give it a little bit of protection from. But excellent plant zone 6 through 9.
Yeah, I grew this in Oklahoma. I was in 7B there, and I had it in full sun, and it grew like a champ. So I mean, it was a great plant for that. First
time I saw us at Crispin's, I was like, what's going on there? It was an unnamed sealant at that point, and I was like, you know, this is something. This color, he had it already in the special section of propagation. I was like, this one's got some promise. So moving along, we'll talk about another one that's great for that hot climate. We've got ACER Olivierianum Hot Tamale. So these are always popular. Tim likes to always reiterate, putting them in cart doesn't necessarily save them, so you have to go ahead and check out. Hot Tamale is one that does tend to clear out pretty quickly on the website.
Oh man, I mean, this one right here, the spring color on it is absolutely amazing. It kind of has this like orange pink hue to it. I mean, I was catching some this spring out in the greenhouses, and I was just like, wow, it really kind of stood out. And when I was looking at the different ones that you guys had introduced, you know, there's such a variability between like the hot blonde and the hot tamale. I really like the characteristics of this and what it can bring.
Spoiler alert, hot blonde's on here as well with the hot tamale. So both those are going to be like instant add to carts together. Exceptional heat tolerance on the ACER Olivierianums. That's why we like to select an ACER Olivierianum. It's essentially going to look just like a Japanese maple, but even more durable for those hotter areas. These are grafted onto the same ACER palmatum understock, so they're in that same family. But exceptional heat tolerance and durability. Fast growers too. These are going to put on about a foot of growth to a foot and a half of growth a year. Hot Tamale is actually one that was selected by our friend Yano-san at World Maple Park, and he had Nakahara Beni A and B on these.
Gotcha.
And hot sauce became the red form, and then the amazing pink form became Hot Tamale.
Right.
And we talked to him about actually introducing those and getting them out here in the American market. And he said, well, if you do, please put a distinctive name on it. Those are just placeholder names. I don't want those to be the names. So we put them in our Heat Seeker series, and the Hot Tamale is, I mean, it might be the quickest to sell out. Maybe we don't have as many of them as Hot Blonde, but normally when it hits the website, it's gone. It's highly sought after for that spring color for sure.
Yeah, I love the idea of the Heat Seeker series.
Right.
I mean, there's so many of us in that hot climate trying to grow maples. I mean, this is a great alternative for that. So next up here, we have ACER Palmatum Waveleaf. This is an introduction by Talon Buckholz.
Yeah.
This is an amazing plant. It really caught my attention when I first came out here and started seeing this in
one
the
of your first
greenhouse.
ones now.
Yeah,
right?
and you know, I had to take one home with me. I was like, this has got to go in my collection. There's just something really special about the leaf on this. It kind of gets this nice shiny waxy texture on the top.
It's got a little something extra.
It's got a little something, a little flair there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and when it first comes out, it's got this bright red with that little gloss over the top of that leaf. It gives it something really cool.
Yeah, this is another one that was actually in that Shining Stars or Shooting Stars. I forget what he calls the seedlings, but it was there in the Shining Star, just top seedling batch.
Right.
And it was actually on the to-go pile, so it was definitely leaving. And after about the 5th person came into town and was like, what is up with this one? He was like, hold on, let's pull that back out of the sales area. Right. And so I'm glad he did, because now we have it as a cultivar. Waveleaf, you know, it's got that reticulated, we put it in the new gross video, so definitely check that out. But it's got that reticulated veining, extremely dark, but I definitely think it's the glossiest of any of the ones I've seen with that reticulated veining. Especially that spring garden, it just looks almost cartoonish.
For sure, yeah. And yeah, if you want to see a demonstration of that, I'm sure I'll be popping some photos in here, but check it out on the website. You definitely can tell that it's got this little extra special to that leaf. And it does kind of have a little bit of a wave too as the leaf matures out. It gets some edging on that kind of makes the whole leaf look like it's got a little wave around the edges of it. So I understand a little bit of where that wave leaf name comes from.
Awesome plant. It's been very heat tolerant for me. Again, another zone 5 through 9 here. If you give it some protection, definitely give it protection in that zone 9 setting. I think if you give it some late day shade, you're going to hold that spring color like with most of the Ghost series later into the spring and summer.
For sure.
Probably my favorite of the new Ghosts.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot, but probably my favorite of those.
Most definitely. And I'm getting all excited about this one, Matt, so I'm going to take it here. We got ACER Palmatum Grandma Ghost.
We went from the old Ghost to the new Ghost to the old Ghost.
That's right, that's right. I mean, you know, another Talon Buckholz introduction. I mean, absolutely amazing. I had a really nice one of these in my garden back in Oklahoma, so there's days where I'm like, man, I wonder how that Grandma Ghost is looking right now.
Maybe we'll do an adventure to the Oklahoma garden one day.
A little garden tour, head back to Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of like that pure white and green reticulated that you're looking for. I mean, to me, I was kind of like this purist. You know, I like those like real true green and white variegated, reticulated types. And Grandma Ghost is definitely one of those.
It's definitely one of the softest whites. You know, it doesn't even have that border like First Ghost. It comes out all white, all reticulated veining. Very unique leaf. It's kind of got a more fanned out leaf to it than some of the other Ghost series. Part of that OG original Ghost series from Talon Buckholz. So if you're looking to complete that Ghost series and Grandma Ghost is a piece you're missing, here's a great chance to pick that one up.
Definitely. Yeah, this one's did great for me there in Oklahoma. I did have to give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun, but a great plant to kind of light up a dark space too. I mean, it really did well for me there, and it stood out. I had it behind some lace leaves in my garden, and it really just popped back there in the back.
I love how vase shaped it is. It tends to be very multi-stem and vase shaped for me in that 10 to 12 foot range, and just a great complement, especially to the Ghost series, but it stands out on its own. And like Brian said, it's a great way to brighten up a shady spot.
Absolutely.
So from a shady spot to a sunny spot, we've got ACER Oliveranium Hot Blonde. We already spoiler alerted you if you hadn't seen this one there at the end of the table when we did the Hot Tamale. Hot Blonde started our Heat Seeker series. I was originally going to name this one something else. Actually, originally I had Hot Blonde on it.
Right.
And then I chickened out, if you want to know the truth. So I had Hot Blonde on there. Loved the Hot Blonde for that color to it. I chickened out. I started to put another name on it, and I had a friend message me who had a patented tree by the other name, and he said, hey, I've already got a patented tree named that way. I said, hey, you know what? It was meant to be. We're going back to Hot Blonde, and honestly, everybody's loved it. It is a super heat tolerant ACER Oliveranium hybrid, likely a hybrid between ACER Oliveranium and Aureum, giving it that color, but then the growth rate of Oliveranium.
Yeah, I grew this one in Oklahoma. Again, it's such a great plant, and you know the whole word, you know, the wordplay with that is awesome. You know, everybody wants to say I've got a hot blonde out in my garden, but yeah, very heat tolerant. I mean, and this is a very fast grower too. I mean, this
over a foot and a half.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not uncommon once it gets established to be a foot and a half, especially in warmer climates. This one works zones 5 through 9, and it can push it in that zone 9. It can take a little bit more sun than a lot, which is shocking for a yellow. Equal to the yellow is that fall color, is neon pink.
It's like this electric pink. Yeah, it's crazy color. It's definitely something that if you want to make a bold statement with spring and fall, this tree definitely captures both of those worlds.
It's interesting, yeah. And here in North Carolina, we're in zone 6B here at MrMaple. We're in western North Carolina, very close to Hendersonville. And one thing about it for us is it holds its color a little bit longer too. So it's one of those trees that's a little bit of fall color after everything's already dropped, which is always interesting. I've got customers with this on the Battery in Charleston, and you know, their tree is massive. It's growing like a weed down there in that heat. Loves the heat. Excellent tree. Really good form to it. You know, it's going to have an upright form similar to that of something like Emperor 1. So it's got a great Japanese maple shape to it, but just a little something extra. Kind of like that pink blushing in the early spring too over the yellow, which we have to hold back on these because I could stick these in 3s, and I'm telling you by September, they're finished 3s as well. So I mean, it's a nurseryman dream for the growth rate as well.
So speaking of heat, you know, I'm sure this 10 at 10's heating up. You guys just saw this amazing lineup we've got here on the table, and I know you're chomping at the bit to get in there and start adding stuff to your cart. But at 10 o'clock, these will all go live on our website. We really appreciate you guys tuning in today. And
hey, definitely check it out. If you sign up for our weekly emails, you'll get the other 10 that are going on there. These are just 10 of the 20 right now. We're actually still doing 20, basically new trees every at the 10 at 10. But yeah, just sign up for those. It's a great way to get informed on what's going on. We really appreciate all the content you guys have been participating in. These premieres, you know, we're getting a great conversation going below there. Definitely this week, I would like to ask you to check out our Gregory Bald videos. They're going to premiere this week.
Yeah.
We put a lot of work into these. Brian's been editing hours beyond hours to get these done.
Pretty much nonstop this last week. I've been putting together some pretty epic native azalea adventures at the Gregory Bald. I mean, it's going to be pretty awesome. We hope you guys join in with that fun and just kind of experience what we experienced. We try to portray it as best we could.
The drone footage, the interviews, the wildlife, the scene. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different than what we normally do here at MrMaple. It's almost more of a movie. It's almost like, I mean, not to toot our own horns, but it's almost like a nature documentary.
It feels that way.
And Brian's been doing an excellent job editing this. Native plants don't hit that algorithm. I'll tell you that right up front. So definitely share that we would appreciate that so much, and getting those videos out there and just getting some eyes on them, because we put a ton of work into getting these done and a ton of time and sweat hiking up that mountain. I'll tell you that.
So we appreciate you guys watching this 10 at 10, and hope you have a great day.
Take care.
And God bless.